All right, recording is started. Good morning, everybody. I'm calling this meeting of the Public Safety Communications Task Force to order. It is 11:15 on February 4th, 2026. I'm Barb Neal. As a reminder, the meeting's being recorded and that recording will be posted to the task force webpage following the meeting. We'll start with our usual roll call of task force members. Please verbally acknowledge your presence when I call your name. Dan Batesy.
Here.
Paul White.
I'm here.
Ron Kumitz.
Here.
Morning. And that looks to be it for the moment. Okay. Also joining us today is Emily Mullaney from DPS as our administrative support, and our project management partners, Rick, Dom, and not Elizabeth today.
Elizabeth was here. She was having some computer difficulties and signed out, is trying to get back in.
Okay, great. All right. We'll watch for that. I don't see anyone on the line from Mission Critical this morning, but we do have some members of the public. So I'm going to call on each of you and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and any affiliation you'd care to share. So Irene Renner, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Irene Renner, recent senator, recent JITALK member. Thanks.
Welcome. Matthew Prouty, Chief Prouty.
Matt Prouty, Chief of Police, Rutland City.
Nice to see you. And Beth Terrian. Beth is a dispatcher, so she may be tied up. We'll reach out to you again, Beth, at the public comment period, and you can introduce yourself then if you'd like to share anything. And in the meantime, I see Michael Wright has joined us. Good morning, Michael.
Morning.
All right.
And Barb, Beth noted in the chat that she doesn't have a microphone.
Oh, okay, I missed that. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Okay, whoops. Looks like somebody is trying to get into the executive session, Emily.
It's Jim.
Oh, Jim Mack.
Yeah. He started the meeting for the executive session.
Emily, can you corral him out of executive session and back into this? It probably more easily than I would be able to do it. Okay.
Oh, here he comes.
Now, Emily just joined him in that meeting. There he goes. Yep, there he is.
Okay, there's Jim. And Emily's back. Okay.
Yeah, I went to the wrong one.
Yep, that's okay. Good morning, Jim. We just finished roll call. Are you here?
I am here.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, so we've gone through all the introductions and we are on to approval of the agenda, which was distributed to task force members by email. It's also available on the webpage. Do task force members have any changes for the agenda? Okay, hearing nothing, we'll consider it approved and move on to approval of the minutes. These would be the minutes from the January 27 special meeting, which was special meeting number 19. Any changes needed to these minutes? A motion to approve those minutes?
Make a motion to approve as printed.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion needed? Okay.
But I'm
The
just,
minute-
I'm
go ahead.
going to abstain since I wasn't at that meeting and I haven't had a chance to review them. So.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. All right, then all in favor of approving the minutes from January 27, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right, all hands are up except Paul abstained. Moving on then, I do see Elizabeth Herring has joined us. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Moving on to project updates. I'll hand it over to you, Dom.
All right. Thank you, Barb. I appreciate that. And good morning, everyone. The primary focus for the task force and support from Televate has been development of the detailed report for the legislature which was completed last week with input received from everyone and a special meeting we had last week. And that was sent, I believe, was sent first thing Monday to the legislature. And Barb, I believe you did get confirmation of their receipt, and they are looking at that. As I
Yes.
guess that's about as far as we know.
Right, exactly. I can expand on that a little bit if you're all set now, Dom, or I can wait for you
Well,
to finish.
I do have another item regarding the concept for the simulcast cell LMR concept that we put together, so I can do that at any time.
Okay. Well, just to round out the part of having sent the detailed report over to the legislature, I did get a response and an inquiry actually from Representative Lisa Hango, who's kind of taken the lead on this at House Government Operations and Military Affairs. She asked me if the detailed recommendations that we sent this week differed from our testimony in January. I advised her that they did not differ from that, nor did they differ from the preview of recommendations we sent in December, but rather were intended just to provide additional context, background details, all of that. So she appreciated that clarification and said that she's having, or the committee is having, language drawn up for potential inclusion in an omnibus bill that will reflect the recommendations preview. She did encourage us to watch the House Government Operations and Military Affairs agenda and expected there would be at least some discussion of this bill. I don't know specifically of our recommendations, but of the larger bill today at 2:45. So for those of you who are interested in tuning in, you can find their live stream on the legislative webpage. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. I won't be able to tune into that live because I have a commitment, but I will be following up and listening to it later on to see what they're up to, what they're talking about or thinking about. So that's all I have on that. If there's no questions for me on that, I can hand it back to Dom.
Okay, not hearing any questions, I'll move forward. As I mentioned, Televate had previously developed a concept for a statewide, call it system of systems, a collection of simulcast cells for two-way radio as a way to enhance the two-way radio infrastructure throughout the state, and to provide additional capability and a more reliable radio system. There was some discussion of that and a desire to look at that look more detail into that. Specifically in one area, we targeted Addison County as an example, as we had done some initial investigation there previously. So I do have some results from that investigation that I'd like to share. And I have a PowerPoint to share. I'll do that now. Hopefully everyone can see that. Hopefully that's large enough. Right now I won't go into presentation mode if that's okay, just easier to navigate a little bit more.
Looks good to me.
Thank you. So what we see here is just a reminder of the concept. We had mapped on the left, we see the current dispatch assignments for fire. Primarily, these match very closely the EMS dispatch assignments as well. With EMS, I do note there are a couple of differences, but they match very closely. And as you can see, it's kind of a patchwork of dispatch assignments in terms of town assigned to specific dispatch centers. And primarily the way these are dispatched and the communication that occurs is through a lot of individual systems distributed throughout the state, which is a difficult means for the dispatcher to keep track, and also an inefficient method of using LMR infrastructure and the frequencies required for the communications. So the concept proposed is what's shown on the right, which shows in the different colors. It shows potential simulcast cells that would address the dispatch and communications capability for fire and EMS. These would be what we call simulcast cells at the VHF frequency band, which is what's currently used for fire and EMS communication. And a simulcast cell is a collection of sites that are interconnected and are used to transmit the same information on all the sites. So they provide a much broader coverage area than a single site. They also utilize the same frequencies, so it is a much more efficient use of frequencies. There are 13 cells here shown in 13 different colors. And right now we show the county borders and kind of how they align as well. The concept was done to align more closely with the dispatch assignments than county borders, but some of them coincide somewhat. So the concept here would be there still would be potentially the same number of dispatch centers involved, but multiple dispatch centers could have access to a given simulcast cell to do their communications. So it would greatly simplify the communications within a particular region. So that was a concept. We took a closer look based on a request from the task force and some others, took a closer look at Addison County and kind of compared the current approach to what the simulcast approach would look like. And thanks here to Ron for helping get information on the current sites that are used in Addison County, and some help from Dean Gilmore providing that information. What we did was we mapped each individual site that was provided that is currently used by dispatchers within Addison County. And we took a look at the individual coverage areas. So what they experience today is depending on which town they're dispatching, they may use different towers. So you'll see here a series of coverage propagation maps, which show the predicted coverage from a given site. And there were 6 or 7, I believe in here, 6 or 7 different sites shown. So in this case, this is the Ripton site that we were provided information for. So when a dispatcher uses the Ripton site, they will experience this type of coverage. What you're looking at here is obviously Addison County is the primary county we're showing here, and you can see the county borders. The 2 colors on the map show predicted portable coverage, portable on street, meaning outside, not within a building. So a user with a portable on their hip, on their belt loop, for example, would be green. And then the broader coverage would be from a mobile radio that would be in the field. And what we are showing here is what's referred to as inbound, as requested. Inbound is the performance that a user in the field would experience talking back to dispatch. So that's what we're showing here. The red, again, mobile, the green, portable. So that's what it would look like if a dispatcher was using that particular site, the Ripton site. There are a series of these. I'll step through them. There's a site called Bristol, and that would provide this estimated coverage. So again, you see, just portions of the county are being covered by each of these sites. The Chipman Hill site provides more broader coverage, but again, that's a single site shown where it's located here. That provides better coverage throughout the county, but certainly not the entire county. Another site in use is Lincoln Peak, which is on the eastern edge of the county, and that shows the particular coverage expected from that. And I believe we have 3 more sites. Mount Philo is one currently in use on the northern side. Also a New Haven site, and then finally an Orwell site. So you can see that each of these sites has different coverage performance within the county based on the particular area it is located, and the dispatcher would have to choose the correct site to communicate with what specific agency they are trying to communicate with or dispatch. So I will now look at the theoretical, and this is key, that we'll call it theoretical coverage if all those sites were together. So in theory, if all those sites were used together, it would give you a fairly broad coverage of the entire county, Addison County, and that would look like this. So we put all of those, let's see, 7 sites together, and that would show fairly comprehensive coverage from a portable radio and slightly broader coverage from a mobile radio. But the reason I call this theoretical is because they do not have a simulcast system today. So what this would show would be the coverage they would get if they simulcasted all of these sites together. They do not have, that does not currently operate that way, as they do not have the connectivity or the equipment in place to simulcast those. But it's a way to compare the proposed simulcast cells that have been developed as the concept. So given that this theoretical county coverage for these existing sites, the next question is, what would the estimated coverage be for the proposed simulcast cells that have been developed as part of the concept? And that's the next and the final map that I have, and that would look like this. So you'll see that these are very similar. Again, this is the theoretical current, and this is the proposed from the simulcast concept design. You'll see 4 sites here. There are actually more sites within this proposed cell. Some of them are outside the county, but do provide coverage inside the county, and that's why they were included here. So again, to review, the concept was developed to minimize development costs and infrastructure costs. So it was developed using primarily sites that are currently in use by the state for the VSP network to make use of existing infrastructure, meaning towers and potentially equipment shelters, generators for backup power, all of that existing equipment to minimize any type of development costs. A brief summary of conclusions here is what the key points that we see based on this analysis. So as we saw from the individual 7 different sites, current usage by Addison County provides varying coverage depending on the different site. And I see Ron has a question. Do you want to go now, Ron, or you want to wait till I finish up these key points?
My question is actually very quick. I
Okay.
can't see them. I can't see them side by side. Well, on the left side, they're very, very tiny. But I was going to ask, what what happened between the initial theoretical and the proposed slide 19 and 20 that caused the coverage to drop substantially in Ripton. And I'm assuming that by the language used in that other slide, the following slide 21, that it's because the Ripton site was not used.
That's correct. Yes. Yes. Uh, that's right. The concept design is based on, I believe it's a total of 49 sites throughout the state. 47 of those are either existing VSP sites or planned as part of the VSP expansion. And then there were only 2 additional sites added to the concept. But that's a good point you mentioned, Ron, and I do address that in the key points. And in fact, you'll see the bottom sub-bullet addresses that specifically. As I mentioned, the current Addison County shows, varying coverage throughout the county depending on the different site in use. The consolidated coverage of the 7 different sites provides fairly comprehensive coverage. And again, that's only theoretical because a dispatcher would have to make 7 different selections to get all of that coverage put together. They don't have a simulcast cell today. The comprehensive coverage of the proposed task force concept with the simulcast cells, and that actually uses a total of 8 sites. As I mentioned, some of them in the county, some of them in surrounding counties. That provides, for the most part, very similar coverage to the consolidated theoretical coverage of the current sites. And why is that? Well, 3 sites were the same. The Chipman Hill, Lincoln, and Mark Philo sites are in both of those, both slides 19 and 20, because those 3 sites were given to us as currently being used by Addison County and are also part of the concept design. So those 3 sites are common. That would, is a big reason why you see similar coverage. Other cells from the proposed concept design would provide additional coverage or redundancy. And that's a key point. What is being shown here is only coverage from that single cell, one of those 13 that are proposed for the concept. But there are 12 other cells. Obviously, some of them are adjacent to this cell that would also provide some limited coverage into this area. So they would provide maybe a little bit better coverage in some areas and some redundancy. And the final point I have is kind of addresses Ron's comment. And our feeling for the concept design, a key factor of that would be that the local agencies would be permitted to add additional sites to the concept that's been proposed to improve coverage in their particular area. So they may have specific sites here. We mentioned Ripton in particular, where Ron noticed right off that the coverage in Ripton degraded some when you use the task force concept design, and that's because the Ripton site wasn't included. That could be included if the locals could add that site to the simulcast cells. If they had the site, for example, configured and it had the sufficient infrastructure to include the antennas, then you could include that and you would improve the coverage in that particular area. So Ron, that was a perfect, almost looks like we set that up, but in fact we didn't, but that was a perfect lead into one of the points we wanted to make here. So I've gone through quite a bit here. Happy to answer any other questions or provide any additional clarification.
Okay. Task force member questions. I have a question that's probably a complete oversimplification of the whole whole situation here. But in the recommendations we sent over, there was a $5 million investment in
Yes.
the LMR.
Yes.
How far towards this improved coverage does that 5 million get us? Or is it just kind of putting into place foundational aspects and then more will come later with more investment? Does that make sense?
The $5 million, as we would recommend, would do two things. It would put into place foundational aspects, complete design and additional design plans. But the 5 million would certainly be sufficient to pursue implementation of at least one or more of the proposed simulcast cells. Our estimate of the complete proposed 13 cell system of systems is between 30 and 35 million. So the 5 million would be a portion of that.
Right. So at some point, the decisions would have to be made about which sort of the order of implementation, assuming there's the investment. But presumably, we've been working with Addison County here for a while as our example, so that would likely be the first. Is that what we're thinking, or decision not made yet?
I don't know if any decision has been made yet. They would certainly be a candidate.
Okay. I suppose it'd be good to know how the legislature feels about the spending authority that we would need. But anyway, any other questions for Dom on this? Paul, go ahead.
Yes, Paul.
I'm hesitant to get down in the weeds too far because I know that you're just using this as an example, but I just want to confirm, you said at the beginning that all of these maps are reflecting inbound only, right?
That's what we looked at, yes.
Okay.
That's
So-
inbound. That was the request at one of the previous task force meetings we had to look at inbound.
So
Outbound's not a big problem from those sites. It's
Right.
the inbound is the real issue.
Right.
Right. Outbound is.
But I assume
would
if you were to map outbound, I assume the coverage would look a lot better.
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Yes, the inbound link is the weaker path, if
Right,
you will,
okay.
because so this is the worst case. If we were to
So-
map outbound as well, it would look better. Yes.
Okay.
I
So-
think that I think for purposes of, as we move forward, putting this all out into the, the first responder community, that the outbound coverage just serves to muddy the waters. I mean, that's what you see vendors use to get people to say, "Ooh, look at that." When the reality is that what you're trying to build is something that resembles an elephant. It has very big ears and a very small mouth.
Right. I don't disagree. I just wanted to confirm that I was understanding it right.
Yep, you're right.
So even in the best map, it still shows marginal coverage over in the Granville Hancock area on the far east side. I assume that in order to improve that would require another site.
Yes, most likely. Although it would also be worthwhile to look at the coverage from other simulcast cells.
So maybe from like the Windsor County cell.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And then my last thing is you had mentioned that comparing the last two maps, that 3 of the sites were the same: Chipman Hill, Mount Philo, and Lincoln Peak. The locations are the same, but I assume that under this new proposed system, the antenna would be different, meaning the location on the tower could be different. So does that make a difference in
That's
terms of
correct.
coverage? Okay.
Yes, it could be different, and yes, you're correct. Location on the tower could affect things somewhat.
Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Okay. Well, thank you, Dom. This is really helpful. I have to have this kind of information repeated over and over and over and over again in order
Right.
for it to kind of settle in my brain. But this made good sense to me. I'm wondering if we should make those slides easily available to stakeholders, maybe posting on our website, or what do people think about that?
Yeah, when you do that, I'd want to represent this as what all of these, as Dom refers to, all these different cell locations could look like throughout the state. This is just one example out of it.
Right.
Correct.
Barb,
Is
I
it-
would also just, I think we ought to be a little careful here. Because right now we're asking for some very specific recommendations. And this is sort of a bigger, more global picture. I
Right.
appreciate that they fit within one another, and I think there's an important message here. But I would just want to be a little careful that we're not confusing people that if they adopt our initial recommendations, they're going to get this.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I
Um,
do.
So I think that the value of, particularly all those slides is that a lot of people don't understand what a simulcast voting system is. They also don't understand that the talk in, talk out coverage are two, the priority of that. But I think what we need to use these demonstration slides is to say, like, this is the concept, this is what we're envisioning, and this is how you fill in all these areas that you don't have now because everybody's doing their own thing. And this is the value of collaborating and building regional systems, kind of a thing. And if the slides are well explained, what really would be valuable and cool is being able to take the sites that are currently being used in, let's say, Addison County, and click on each one of them to see the site that the coverage that you get, and then add them one at a time, or whatever, add the sites that we have outlined in those different slides, so that it's kind of an interactive user experience, rather than a bunch of slides that people have to figure out on their own.
Yeah. And I don't disagree with Ron at all on that. I think that's exactly what we need, but we're just going to be very careful how we curate it, how we set it up so that there's a clear message going out to say, this is where we're headed. It's not necessarily where we're going to be with this. I also think there's great value in focusing, and Barb, and you brought this up earlier too, that there may be a way within the immediate recommendations to highlight a demonstration project of this, to say, and by the way, I think we ought to go back and say, maybe Addison County is the right one, maybe it's somewhere else. And I think it ought to be from a very egalitarian viewpoint of who's got the worst coverage, how can we enhance it the fastest and the best. Maybe that's Addison County, maybe it's somewhere else, I don't know. I'd let the experts tell me, what the right pathway is there. But I think the more we can sort of get focused and say, hey, we're going to try to set this up in one place, show you that it will work, and then try to recruit some ongoing investment to making this the bigger vision.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is not posting these kind of in a vacuum just yet, right? People could certainly watch this recording to have an understanding of the thinking. And maybe a takeaway for Rick and Dom would be to figure out, maybe you already know this, which area is currently in the worst shape for coverage. And then we can talk about that next time. Does that make sense for a next step? Okay, I see Dom's nodding his head.
I think there's
Ron?
some other things that play into that, and to add to what Dan is saying, I'm not sure that if you want to build something to prove a point that going with the worst coverage is necessarily going to be the way to go, because some of these potential projects in different areas will require licensing, which is like, if it's north of Rutland, that'll take forever.
Okay.
I think that you need to look at which areas are in a position to pool existing, to take existing licenses and existing stuff and get a lot of bang for your buck and get to where you're going to actually have something to show in a short period of time. So, I mean, like I've reached out to agencies across the state and tried to get in touch with the mutual aid groups and stuff. And of the whole entire state, I'm kind of disappointed in the fire EMS people, because out of the entire state, Grand Isle talks to me. They don't have a choice because I'm here. Franklin County has actually done a design for a simulcast system, so there's some prior art there. Capital West has been looking for money to build a system down there for many, many years. So apparently a lot of engineering has been done there as well. And Addison County, purely by virtue of the fact that they've all kind of in parallel built sites throughout the county, is also in a good position to do this because they've got a pile of licenses and stuff. So other than that, all I hear is crickets. I was supposed to get something back from Rutland County and they never sent me anything. So other than that, I think those 4 geographic areas are where we kind of need to concentrate, because we have no idea what the situation is elsewhere. Nobody seems to want to talk. Although they will complain if we choose somebody else first.
Well, that's right. And Ron, that's exactly what I'm getting at is I don't think it necessarily has to be purely based upon the worst coverage. I just think the complaint we're going to get politically is whoever we pick, somebody's going to go, how come you didn't pick us? And to that end, I think we just want to be very clear and transparent in selection about why we made that selection. Here, and maybe it's because it's the easiest to set up. Maybe it's because it's the cheapest to set up. I don't know, right? And again, I'll yield to the experts to tell me that. But we just want to make sure that there's not a perception that we have someplace in our back pocket that we're trying to, lean towards somebody for any motive other than purely improving the system. And I think that can be done. I think we just have to be transparent about how we proceed here.
And you think we're going to escape those accusations no matter how hard we try, right?
No, I don't think that at all. But I think we should show a very clear breadcrumb trail of how we've tried to avoid that.
Yeah, and I think part of it is we kind of need to stress, because all along through the time that we've been embarking on this, we've tried to get all sorts of people to cooperate. We've had some dispatchers participate. We had a few police chiefs and sheriffs pop in here and there. We've got a few people from the fire and EMS community have popped in and out, but by and large, nobody's really cooperated or paid much attention. So I think perhaps that, in when we develop our weighing system, part of it needs to be who actually tried to cooperate with us in an attempt to tell us what their problems were and to get us to solve their problems. And if you didn't come to the table to tell us.
Oops, you muted yourself, Ron, or you are muted.
No, I accidentally hit mute. What was the last thing you heard?
If they didn't come to
the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at who has participated in this effort and reward that in some way in our grading scale for where we're going to start work first.
Okay. Can someone, maybe Dan, like, what do we want Dom and Rick to be working on for us? A number of different possible demo projects that take into account all these things we've just been talking about? Or what's the best way to continue this conversation?
I think perhaps the best way to do it is to sort of give us some suggestions, like from an expert viewpoint. And again, which of these projects make sense for whatever reason they make sense, right? And I think, incorporate any and all of the above, and just kind of give us some notion of possibilities that we have in front of us.
Jim, did you have something you wanted to add? Go ahead.
No, That was the direction I was going in.
Okay. Rick and Dom? Is that
Yep,
something you can do?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can
Okay.
put together some options and you know describe the pros and cons of each, and what it would take to implement various options.
Okay.
And if I could say, to avoid conflict and dissension, because I haven't been selected, or my network was selected and yours wasn't, and to avoid that, there's some underlying work that would need to be done to build some support for this effort, because you just don't, as Ron and has been discussed, you just don't want to launch it on people. You want to get their buy-in to the concept, because it won't work just isolated in one region. It has to be considered that the whole region is going to be engaged in it. So we have to look at, what simulcast cell makes sense. So it wouldn't just be one county, because there's multiple counties involved, if I'm not mistaken, Dom, or was our design proposed originally just at the county level?
No, it's based on simulcast cells that align as closely as we could with the current dispatch assignments.
Yes.
So it doesn't necessarily align with county boundaries.
Right. So, you'd want to get whoever is engaged in that, you'd want that design to be a whole region for it to make sense. And you can see there are efficiencies in terms of the number of sites required to provide reliable service that can be, supplemented with putting additional site. If we went in building in a given area, we could do that. I mean, there are costs to that, but I'm confident that Dom and I could provide some recommendations for task force consideration at a more regional level, at a simulcast cell level.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Anything else for Dom on this or any other part of the project update? Okay. Okay. I do think, I meant to mention this earlier, I do think that we should post the report that we sent to the legislature on the webpage. I didn't see it there, so Emily, if you can hear me, I don't know if that's something you can do or we can coordinate afterwards. I've distributed the report to like the 911 board members themselves. I will distribute it to the dispatch center contact list that Dom provided. I think getting the report out there is not a bad thing, getting it in front of people. So if you have constituent groups that you can be in contact with, I would encourage you to forward that report out. And which brings me to Mike Dunges is not on the call today. You may have all seen the notice of his resignation. I haven't spoken to him about that or how presumably it will impact his membership on the task force. But I think we should also get a copy of the report to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, which was my the thought I was starting with. Dan, do you have a good contact there?
Yeah, we can send it out to, yes. The
Okay.
answer is yes.
Okay. I made a note. Dan will send. So,
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else on project updates? Okay. Then we can move on to public comment. I'll call on all our members of the public and see if they have anything to add today. Dean Gilmore, let's start with you.
Morning, everyone, and thank you, Barb. I would just like to comment on some of what Ron had to say about lack of participation. I think the thing that I hear the most is we won't ever see anything like this happen in our lifetime. And it's because of the past as far as communications and how many years we've been trying to work on doing something. And
Right.
So there's a lot of firefighters, a lot of EMS that they just don't want to spend the time because they don't feel anything's going to happen. And I know here in Addison County, we've been working on this a long time. we're actually in the process of working on different frequencies for different operations on the fire ground and stuff like that, so that a dispatch frequency works like a dispatch frequency. So, but I think a lot of it is just the amount of time that it has taken, and they don't feel that given the economy that money will be available to do anything. So, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of frustration out there, understandably so. So I appreciate that feedback. Senator Renner.
Just glad to be here and listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Beth, Terry, and if you have anything to add, feel free to enter it in the comments. And who am I missing?
Chief Prouty.
Oh, Chief Prouty. I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead. Anything to add?
Yes, I think to Dean's point, so I burned a lot of jet fuel on this back in 2016, which that wasn't just a couple of years ago. But that's how far back this conversation has been going on. And at that time we were told, regional dispatch is going to be the thing. And then somewhere in that process, I mean, I went to Lamoille, I went to St. Jay, all the PSEPs. And then I was told, well, it's going to have to be a sheriff's office because the state's not going to contract with the city. So that's why we kind of stepped out of it. I've been having quite a few conversations since we started dispatching for city fire here instead of VSP. That's been going really well, and that's why I'm back in the conversation. I know this conversation has been pretty much about fire EMS frequencies. Not sure how that's going to translate on the police side. But we're here because if we're looking geographically, we have the spot. It's actually working out really well in our facility with City Fire, and the comments going to Chief Lovett from some of his peers around the county is they're a little jealous having a professional dispatch center that's relatively close. So I look forward to this continued conversation. A lot of it's Greek to me. Thanks, Dom, for dumbing it down a little bit for folks like us. The cops aren't big in the radios, believe it or not, like the fire EMS guys, but hopefully this can get to fruition to a point where it really makes sense, especially on the mutual aid side.
Right. Great. Okay, thank you for those comments. And I see Beth Terrian added in the chat that she has no comment at this time, just listening, but thank you, Beth. Okay, anything else for under public comment? Okay. Any new business? Oh, I'm sorry, Dean, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to ask Dom, in designing these systems, are you looking at the issue if, say, Addison County system went down, that they'd be able to use another county so that there was interoperability that way, so that we aren't left without communications for whatever reason?
Yes, the concept would be that there would be 13 simulcast cells, as I mentioned. Of course, one would be primarily focused on Addison County, but there would be other cells in neighboring counties and neighboring regions. And we would recommend that the first responders would have the frequencies for the neighboring cells as well, so that they could communicate on those if necessary.
Thank you.
If I could add, Dean, we also have to be sure that we design the transport, the backhaul, so that you can still access. And actually, there is a very robust microwave network in the state right now that the state police operate. And we'd want to leverage the backhaul, because you have to be sure that you have the land mobile radio network covering the areas and having sufficient backup. But to transport from one cell to another, we have to design that backhaul so that you can get access to it. And that's part of the overall design. We focus on being, selecting the right constellation of sites per simulcast cell and per neighboring cells, but we also have to focus on the transport. How do we transport that data from one center to another? So that would also be part of the overall design.
All right, thank you.
All right. Excellent. Anything else? All right. Seeing nothing more on public comment, any new business for today? I don't have anything other than if Mike Dunges had been here, I was going to allow him to speak a little bit on his change or his transition that's coming up here. I assume everyone saw that in the news that he has decided to resign. So I'll have some follow-up conversations with him to see what that transition looks as far as we're concerned. So looks like rather. Anything else for new business? Okay. We are on the books for 2 weeks from today, the 18th at 11:15 for our next meeting. Unless something huge comes up in the meantime, we need to call a special meeting. So if there's nothing more, is there a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Ron. Jim seconds it. Okay. All in favor of adjourning for today, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
All right. I see the hands are all up. We are adjourned, and thank you, everybody. Thought it was a really productive meeting and conversation today. So we will be in touch soon and talk in a couple weeks for sure.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Stay warm.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.